I'm Flo and this is Financial Flow. Today we're going to go over how to budget by your pay type. I've created a key here. We're going to color code things. I'm going to actually show you on a calendar what it would look like given these pay dates. These are the dates that the bills are due. So I will transfer these to the calendar as well as go one by one to show you how to budget with these example pay dates. If that's something you're interested in, please stick around. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much. We'll get right into it. Okay, to get started, I'm going to go in and mark off the days. These are based on how my bills come out each month. I've even included my savings transfers, which come out on paydays. And so I'm not going to put them in with the black dots like I would the other bills because they will vary based on the type of pay we're going over. So I'm just going to put in the black dots for the 1st, the 6th, the 18th, 19th, and 22nd. And I do apologize if there's a lisp. I did get braces. That was not on my list of things to do for 2024, but I did it and here we are, lisping away. I'm happy I got them, but I don't enjoy having them. But this was one of my things that I wanted to do as a child that I can now afford to do as an adult now that I have good dental. So here we are. So the dates have been put in. Again, I didn't put in the payday savings transfers because that will vary. So what we're going to do now is just go from the top based on the pay date and what that would look like. So I color coordinated them so it'll be a little easier to follow. They will not all be on this sheet. I do have additional sheets with the dates. As you can see, it's the same month over and over again, so it won't vary too much from pay type. You still get an idea of what that would look like in the same month. I'm going based on June 2024. So we're going to start with monthly pay, which would be a pay date of, in most cases, it would probably be the 1st, but June 1st falls on a Saturday. So I'm going to do this two ways. I'm going to do it with an actual payday of the 1st, and then I'm going to do a payday of the 1st business day, so you see the difference. So for me, the majority of my bills come out on the 1st. This is over 50% of what I pay. You see, everything else is basically subscriptions, savings, or if I have a credit card payment, which I pay in full every month, that's on the 18th. But the bulk of the money that I'm required to spend to have my lifestyle come out on the 1st. So with that, having a payday of the 1st, especially one that falls on a holiday, not a holiday, a weekend, is a big deal. Why? Because a lot of things aren't processed on a weekend. So if my rent is due on the 1st, which falls on a Saturday, that may not be processed until the 1st business day, which is the 3rd. Depending on your leasing company or your mortgager or something like that, you may have some leeway in that payday. I think mine goes until like the 5th. Sometimes with mortgages, it'll go to the 15th. So you may have some wiggle room if you get paid on a Saturday. But if you want to make sure it's paid on time and you don't get hit with any late fees or anything negative on your credit, you will want to make sure you have rollover in this case to make sure that Friday, that previous Friday, that things are covered. But for the sake of the bills going forward from the 1st through the 30th, it would look a little something like this. You get paid on the 1st, and then you have to pay that bill on the 6th, but you still got to eat, you still got to get gas, you still have to do all the different things you need to do throughout the month. 18th and 19th hit, you still have to have money from this one payment on the 1st. 20th, 21st, another bill on the 22nd. All of this comes out of that one paycheck. So in a situation like this, you're budgeting is going to be extremely important, because this one paycheck at the beginning of the month has to cover you for food, has to cover you for any medical expenses, has to cover you for any car expenses, anything of that nature for the entire month. So if you are not good with your money, getting paid once a month may be a little bit harder for you. So um, that these are going to look very similar, obviously, but that is something you need to consider about yourself. If you're able to manage this kind of lifestyle, um, I would see this more often with freelancers, with those on a contract basis that just get paid once a month. With my small business, I would get paid once a month on the 7th. So if I needed money on the 7th to pay my bills on the 1st, this payment on the 7th would have to go to the next month, not the current month. I would be way late. So it's a good idea to have um, a great hold of your finances and a good picture of where you are. But also, one thing to consider with some of these bills, the due date is flexible. Housing, a lot of the time, it falls on the 1st, but you can set your electric, your internet, your water in a lot of cases. You can call them and say what day you want it to come out. So if you get paid on the 1st, but just to cover yourself in case there's a weekend or whatever, you have it set up to say the 5th, to make sure no matter what happens, you've gotten paid prior to that and you can ensure you pay that. That's a step, right? To change your due date. You can do that for almost any of these bills except maybe housing. And even then, you still might be able to. You just need to call either the company that holds your mortgage or talk to your leasing office and say, hey, this day works better for me. You'll still get your money. This is just when you'll get it. So it just depends. But if you were to get paid on the first business day versus the first day of the month, the actual first, what you'll see here is then there's 2 days of the month where you won't have income. So that goes back to being able to really have an idea of your finances, because some of this funds from, say this was May, that would have to roll over into June to cover you until you got paid on the 3rd. So being paid once a month means you have to be a very strong budgeter, because there are all of these things that have to get paid from that one paycheck with no wiggle room. So for monthly, it is a much harder way to budget. If you're not great with budgeting, if you're not great with your money, because you'll have to cover all of these bills, with the majority of it coming out at the beginning of the month, right? So that could be really hard if over 50% of your income goes to all of your bills on the 1st. Then it feels like you don't have enough to eat, you don't have enough to get gas, you really have to pinch pennies at that point. So that's when you have to really consider your needs and wants, and you have to look into things you can cut. So for this example, there are 4 subscriptions here. That would be the first place I would cut, right? Those are managed by you. You don't have to have the subscriptions. Yes, they're nice to have, but they're not required for you to live. There are free options, there are lower price options. That would be the first thing I would try to get rid of. Um, so I know, like Paramount Plus, for example, if you cancel with them, sometimes they'll offer you a free month. So that's just something you can go into, see where you can either get it reduced, get some free months, something like that to cover you, and get some of that money back in your pocket. So these are 2 ways you would have coverage if you got paid monthly. Either you get paid on the 1st and then have to manage it out for the rest of the month, keeping in mind that that money has to last the whole time. So maybe you break it down like, okay, a lot of the money comes out here. So we basically subtract that from the income, and then you have 4 weeks in a day that you need to be able to cover with the rest. You know, for the most part, what the others are, because they're pretty much a set amount. So you budget per week how much you have for food, how much you have for gas, and the different things that you need throughout the month, probably per week. to cover yourself to make sure that when the next month hits, you're good to go. So that's just an idea if you get paid monthly. Okay, so the pay dates in June for bi-weekly pay based on the schedule I'm on is the 7th and the 21st, okay? So with that would mean that getting paid on the 7th would go, and the only thing I'll have to pay with that check would be my credit card and one subscription. And then the pay date on the 21st covers one subscription. And then the next week, and then going into the July rent and things. So it looks like the 7th isn't, the paycheck from the 7th isn't really paying for a whole lot, so you have more money to play with. But what I would do in this situation, considering the bill from the 20th has to stretch over a week and then pay the majority of the bills, I would save probably half of my housing out of the 7th and the other half out of the 21st, just to be on the safe side, just to make sure one paycheck isn't doing too much and I don't feel overstretched or overwhelmed when the first comes and I have all these bills come at the same time. Because as you can see, there's not a whole lot of bills right after I get paid. So it'd be very easy to get comfortable and feel like, oh, I have so much money in my account. I would actually feel more comfortable setting money aside, moving it out of that account, so I'll be less likely to spend it, to have it sitting there. So when the first comes of the next month, I have money from the 7th and the 21st to cover that without stretching myself too thin. Additionally, the savings transfers happen on the 7th and 21st. So based on this, which I also left out on the other payday, this would also be a bill here and a bill here, because that's when the payday transfers occur. So now we have even more black dots and we're realizing, oh, that's more money going out. So we can't spend as much as we thought. We don't have as much as we thought to play around with, because now there are these automatic transfers that weren't initially factored in. Same thing with the monthly budgeting. This is why it's very important that you don't forget when you automatically set up things, when you have automatic transfers, because you'll be spending thinking, oh, I have all this money, and then the transfer is pending. And the next thing you know, you're $100 or $200 less than you thought, because you had this set up automatically and you forgot about it. So that is something that can happen, but I just want you to be mindful of that. So now we have monthly set up to include all of our bills plus our transfers. And this is what it would look like with the bi-weekly, with some tips to lessen the load when the first comes around. All right, so now we're gonna move on to getting paid 2 times a month. Okay, so getting paid 2 times a month. That is not to be confused with getting paid bi-weekly. So I'll bring that up really quickly to show you. Getting paid bi-weekly means you get paid every 2 weeks. So July 2024, I will get paid 3 times because of how the month is set up. When you get paid bi-weekly, there is never a difference in that. You get paid 2 times a month. Sometimes, for example, the military, they get paid the 1st and the 15th. That's different from other places that might get paid the 1st and the 20th, or the 3rd and the 20th, or something like that. It just, whatever that looks like for your company, agency, or organization, it's not on a set 2-week schedule. It is on set days. So for this example, we're gonna go with the military days of the 1st and the 15th. And that does not matter if it's a weekend. The only thing that might adjust, it might be a holiday, but I don't think it's affected by the weekends. So if you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, got the 1st here, the 15th here. It looks like, oh, it's every 2 weeks, but then you realize it goes a little bit longer between the 15th and the next first. Okay, so to that point, again, the first, we got the bulk of the bills coming out. So as soon as you get paid, most of that money's gone. A lot of us has felt that. A lot of us knows what that's like. So that's why budgeting and knowing where your money's going is very important, because one thing that can save you in a situation like this is what in the planning and budgeting community, excuse me, they call rollover. So in this paycheck from the first, I would recommend doing like you would do with bi-weekly. Excuse me, not the first, the one on the 15th, but the bulk of the bills are coming out on the first, which means you kind of have to stretch yourself to the 15th. And the 15th just kind of covers light things, smaller things, and floats you into the first. So if you can save a bit more of your check from the 15th, especially if you could save half of, say, your housing costs from the 15th, when the 1st of July rolls around, all of that money coming out of your account at once won't hurt so bad because you have a little extra. Sorry for any background noise. So that's one of those keys when you get paid multiple times. Don't just say, oh, okay, I have these bills coming out, that bill coming out, and I can do whatever I want with my money until the next time I get paid. You want to keep as much of that money as possible, because more bills are coming. That's one thing about bills, they don't seem to stop. So more bills, excuse me, bills are coming. So however you can set yourself up to cushion that removal from your account, whether that's automatic or manual, that will definitely save you a little bit more. And let's also factor in the additional transfer here for our savings. So that money on the 15th got hit a little bit because now we also have a transfer on that day, but we still have more money for that check from the 15th than we did from the first, because that's when the bulk of the bills are happening. So again, ways to save: minimize the subscriptions, pay attention to how much you're spending on food, miscellaneous shopping, Target runs, house goods, things like that. I still use coupons. I go to Costco for gas. I bulk buy things from Costco that I know I'm going to use. I see what's cheaper at various stores. My sister laughs at me all the time because I will go to multiple grocery stores to get the least expensive item. If it's the same thing, but it's just cheaper somewhere else, I will go to multiple stores to do that. Luckily for me, I can go to one shopping center and there's multiple grocery stores. So I'm not actually wasting any gas to do that. And I just make one run, hit everything, and then go home. But I do try to use coupons there, and just, you know, maximize the system to work for me to save that money. But I also set a goal when I go in there. Even though I'm hitting multiple stores, I still have a budget of how much I can spend, right? So look at your meals, what you like to eat, what you need to eat, and go in with a list, go in with your coupons. They still come in the mail, they still work. You also have apps like Fetch and things like that, Rakuten. Like, there are different ways you can save money, get gift cards, all of that kind of stuff to minimize what you're paying out of your own pocket while also living a life you enjoy, right? Because we only get one life. There's no sense of hating the life you live because your budget is so tight. Obviously, you have to try to live within your means and do what you can do. So that either means reducing your bills or increasing your income. But either way, something's got to give, right? So just an idea of what it looks like to budget 2 times a month. Now we're going to move on to weekly and random pay. Okay, so now we're on to weekly pay, which is quite possibly the easiest to budget. You know when the money's coming in, you know you don't have to cover all of the bills or too many bills essentially at one time, giving our example bills here. And it just makes your life a whole lot easier because the moment the money only has to go so far. So say we get paid every Friday. So if you get paid every Friday, which is an amazing thing. I've never had it, but I would love to. But what do we also have to consider? We have transfer set up every Friday. So now you have a little extra going out, but like I said, you still know when the money's coming in, and it comes in a lot quicker. So to illustrate what those bills have to cover, actually for this example, I'm also going to do the Friday before, which would be May 31st, but just to give the example, right? So this Friday covers the 1st, where a lot of the bills are coming out, all the way through to the next one. Look at that, easy peasy. The shortest line we've had, right? That paycheck on the 7th, you have the savings transfer, right? And then all the way to the 13th. The check on the 7th, it goes so far, all you do is save. You don't even have to pay any bills, right? And then you get to the paycheck on the 15th. You got a couple of bills there and the savings. That's it. Bills are paid, right? And then the check on the 21st, you have your savings, you have a subscription, and then you're good to go. Easy peasy. You get paid on the 28th. That check looks like it doesn't do anything, but remember, July 1st is that Monday. So then that check on the 28th has to pay all of these bills here. But guess what? If you get paid weekly and one check isn't enough to cover all of these bills, it looks like, oh, you have all this money to burn. It's rolling in. But depending on how much that is, you need to save a bit of this every week. So when July 1st comes, you have enough to cover all of these bills. So while the money's not going out every check as much, these savings transfers need to be setting you up to pay all of these bills come July 1st. So this is easy to budget, but it still takes discipline because you look like you have so much money to burn each week because it seems to come to you so often. But you also have to keep in mind how much that is, not just how often you see it. And if one check isn't enough to cover all the bills on the 1st, then you need to take off a little bit for each check to cover all the bills that are going to come out on the 1st. And in this case, that's the majority of the bills. So it's very, very important that you take a little bit each week. That automatic transfer, we have it for savings, but it really needs to be for all of the bills that's coming out on the 1st as well. Still need to save, but also set yourself up to make sure you don't get to the 28th and you're just like, oh no, I don't have enough money for housing, electric, internet, water, and my subscription all on the same day. So you can save a little bit each week to make sure you have that. And now, one of the hardest ways to budget, random pay. So I'm going to probably use each calendar here just to show a different example. Like I was saying before, with my small business, I got paid on the 7th. What if you only get paid on the 15th, or let's just say the 17th? If you get paid once, it's so hard to budget for the whole month, as we saw with the monthly budgeting, right? But let's say, like, for example, people with Etsy shops, they can get paid every Friday. Say you have a YouTube channel as well. Say you maybe only get paid once from Etsy because your shop isn't that big, but your YouTube is doing really well and you get paid on the 20th. Or let's say you get paid every Friday from Etsy. You get paid on Tuesday from YouTube. You get paid on the 10th from TikTok. You get paid on the 26th from Facebook or Meta. Then It just depends, right? So if you're freelance or you're a small business owner and you don't know when the money's coming in and out, or you don't know how much it's going to be, one thing you have to consider is your monthly bills, but also you have to think long term, because with all businesses, everyone knows there's ups, there's downs, there's good months, there's bad months. You know, a lot of people do really, really well around Black Friday and Christmas and New Year's, and then things might taper off in the spring. Or people are on break and not working as much and not doing all these other things. So maybe your sales tank in the summer, depending on what you're doing. So what you have to do when you get paid like this is save a lot or prepay your bills. Because yes, in June alone, you have these bills to cover. But what if, because it's random, that's just what you see in June? But what if July has $0? Then what? You have to have the emergency fund, but you also can go ahead with all of this June income, especially if you're doing really well in business right now, working for yourself or freelancing. Take that YouTube check, put it towards the bill. Go ahead and prepay it for the next month. Take that Etsy, take those different things you have that are really doing well, put it into your sinking funds for future months. Now, if you have this kind of random pay, but then you also have, for example, monthly pay with your job, say you're going to get paid on the 3rd. Now you have even more flexibility. Now you have even more funds to get ahead, to set up your sinking fund, to make sure when the first and next months come, you're covered. What if you got multiple jobs, right? So here we have 2 times a week. So say you have your 2-time-a-week job. You have a part-time job that pays you once a month. Say your small business pays out on the 7th. YouTube pays on the 20th. And Etsy pays, we're just going to say Saturdays for this example. So now you can assign bills to a particular check, right? So now with your random, your monthly, say, check on the 3rd, that's just the subscriptions. Say your YouTube check, that's the 20th. That's the bills on the 1st. Say your small business on the 7th. You're just going to save all that. Okay, and then your checks on Saturdays, that's going to be all the other bills. You can do whatever you want, right? Just make sure everything's covered. So did we miss anything, right? We have this check covers all the bills on the 1st. That'll be that day. The subscriptions, we got to check for that. All the subs, other than the ones on the 1st, come out after the 3rd. So that's taken care of. That's taken care of. Okay. The other bills, we got that with our weekend pay. What was that? Etsy, right? Subs are already taken care of. And then the savings transfers. We'll do that when we get paid on the 7th. So now everything's covered, but it's covered by a different check. That's possible. It'll work the same even if you did weekly. You did weekly, you could do the same thing. Pick a day, that's what it goes to. So you could do it this way versus every week separating it for your housing costs. Pick a check per day and send it to a bill. You can do whatever you want. Just make sure everything's covered. You wrote down everything you have. You know when it's due. If you know when you get paid or you have an idea around about when that'll happen, adjust accordingly. But to save yourself, have your sinking funds, savings, and a plan. Right? So figure out the plan for the month, but then also look long term, right? So this will feed into these two. These sinking funds and savings will be based on your long-term plan, right? Based off of your monthly plan. It all ties together. But this is just an idea of weekly, 2 times a month, random, monthly, where you get paid on the first of the first business day, and bi-weekly budgeting. However you get paid, there's a budget for you. You just got to figure it out. If you have any questions, if you want further guidance, please just let me know. I can go more in depth. I can look at your situation specifically. So please just let me know in the comments or send me a message, okay? Thank you all for watching. Again, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for your time, and happy budgeting. This has been Financial Flow. Bye.